What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jiggadrin. Guys, we're on episode 15. Thank you all so much for joining and listening. I asked you guys before the episode starts that if you could definitely drop a like and a follow, I would extremely appreciate it. This is something that I like to do on my spare time at the moment. I would love for this to be full-time as soon as possible. Love getting to meet new people. Love getting to learn more about people and their stories. And guys, today we have a special guest. Guy, can you do me a favor and introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Jorge Rocha. I'm a health coach right now. Health is really my purpose, my passion, and I'm just out here trying to improve people's lives or just have overall better quality life through health, through movement, through nutrition, through sleep.
Okay.
So that's what I do. That's my purpose in life, and yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Cool. Okay. So obviously I've had your little brother on the podcast before. That was Diego Rocha, right? And Diego, is he still playing with Toros?
He is kind of in the process of, kind of in the limbo of either looking for another opportunity or seeing what's happening. So I don't want to like.
No. That's fine. And the only reason I asked is because last time, I mean, he was here and he was, with the Toros. So I mean, it's been a while since he's been on. The only bad part about my podcast right now is that I do like an episode or two a month.
Okay.
I would love to bring that up. I would love to bring those numbers up. So obviously, when I talk about past guests, it's been a while already. But for sure, Diego's been on the podcast. That was one of my favorite podcasts for sure. It was good. And cool. So where are you from, essentially?
So I was raised in Laredo, Texas, but I was born here in San Juan.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah. So that's actually a funny story. Like, I don't know when you were checking the mic that you were like, oh, I've never had to go that low or stuff like that. Part of, it doesn't define who I am, but a big part of who I am is my voice.
Okay.
And it's unique.
It is unique.
Different.
I'll be honest with you. Sorry to interrupt, but whenever you walked in the door, I mean, I remember you, right? But briefly, because of everything. But and then you spoke, and I was like, whoa, I never heard like a voice like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I was born in San Juan. My parents were living in Laredo. The only reason I was born in San Juan is because from my mom's family, all my cousins up to that point were born in San Juan.
Okay.
So I was born in this clinic. It wasn't even a hospital. Obviously, I don't remember. I was being born. But from the things my parents tell me, my mom had a super long labor. Super, super long. It got to a point where she was literally dying. Like she was about to die, literally. So since it was a clinic, not the best resources, not the best doctors, I guess.
Yeah.
When like her little machine, the vital signs were like dropping to almost like nothing, the nurses would turn to my dad and be like, what do we do? And I'm the firstborn. Diego's my younger brother. Yeah. So I'm the firstborn for my parents. So my dad's there like seeing his wife dying. They don't know how to deliver me. Like they don't know what to do. They're asking him what to do. My dad's like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, this is why I came here, Yeah. So it was chaos. It was panic. Like I said, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But while like they were trying to revive my mom, they get me out. And our theory is that like when a baby's born, like you clean them up, all that. So since my mom was dying, all the focus
was on your mom.
was on my mom. So I was just like left aside. And from there, I got a virus. So I grow like this tumor in my vocal cords. Okay. I've had 5 or 6 surgeries. And I just say it's a part of my life because it's a characteristic I have. But growing up, I mean, first it's like children are curious, So like elementary school, like, oh, why do you talk like that? Or why do you... And I never even noticed it. So like when people ask you like that, oh, like, am I weird? Or, like stuff like that. Yeah. And then growing up into middle school, high school, a little bit more of bullying or like getting teased or stuff like that. So there was a point where I was like really insecure. Like I wouldn't be able to do this. Like even to meet someone, I'd rather stay quiet because it's like, oh, are you sick?
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't even
That's interesting.
Like ill intention, but you're just so caught up in your head that you're like, oh, I'd rather not say anything, stuff like that. So things like that, they've have been a part of who I am today. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background.
Man, so that's interesting. I didn't know that. I definitely wouldn't have guessed that about you at all. For sure, man. I definitely think in the spaces that, and we'll get into in a bit, that you might be trying to get into or that you are doing right now, I definitely think being unique in any way possible is always a plus and a benefit to a person. Man, if I had your voice, I'm probably doing this podcast, more people would probably listen. So, dang, so that's so growing up, would you get bullied for it? I mean, you mentioned that you would get insecure about it. How have you gone from being insecure about it to basically you reached out to me? And first of all, thank you so much for reaching out to me to do the episode on the podcast. What gave you, or how did you transition from being insecure to a point where you're able to reach out to someone to do a podcast?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you even taking the time.
For sure.
I guess that was part of my life, and there's been things like I lost one of my best friends to suicide. Like, he took his life. Things that have happened in my life, for example, that, like, you realize everyone's going through something. Like, we're all either insecure, we have our issues, we have our troubles, like, things like that. And if it was, like, it's really sad that happened. I'm just really grateful for, like, that friend and every lesson that he left behind. Yeah. If it wasn't for those things, like, I guess I would still be caught up in my own projections or my own insecurities. But you realize, like, everyone's dealing with something, and our time here is very limited. It's finite, So to be caught up on things at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Like, if I can be vulnerable and I can open up about what my feelings, my insecurities, someone can relate to that and be like, hey, I struggle with this, I struggle with that. So I guess through health, it really gave me a message. It really gave me a purpose. It really gave me something meaningful to a point where, like, it doesn't matter how my voice sounds. It doesn't matter. Like, I know what I'm trying to, like, my core message is bigger than my voice or my insecurities. Yeah. So that's kind of the transition. And just we're all going through stuff. So for me to be like, oh, what is he gonna think about my voice or stuff like that? I think it's selling myself short or for, like, my message not to get across because of my insecurities. I think is a disservice to myself and the people that I'm trying to help.
Absolutely, man. I think you hit it right on the head of the nail there. You have insecurities, and sometimes most of us, and I used to go through it a lot, and I still do in some aspects of my life. I mean, I would completely be lying to you if I told you that I'm completely confident in all aspects of my life. That's not true. And maybe there are people out there who are 100% confident in all aspects of their life. But when you really boil it down, it boils down to basically everybody that is going through something. So just like you mentioned, it's like, why am I worried about what somebody's going to think about me when I know that they're going through something as well? So it's like, maybe the only difference between me and that person is I have enough courage to actually be vulnerable enough to show my insecurity or to say my insecurity and still be able to push through it, right? So at the end of the day, and that's what always confused me growing up, is like I would want to do things, say things, and I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know what they're going to think of me, right? And it's like, it doesn't really matter, right, what people think of you, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own insecurity, right? And I definitely think the people who pick on or bully people with the insecurities are the ones that go through it the most, right? They need somewhere to place that frustration, that lack of confidence, and they project it onto other people, and they feel better about themselves whenever they bully them or pick on their insecurity. So, man, I think that's awesome. So, talk to me about where you're at now. Like, what do you got going on? I know in the introduction you mentioned briefly about wellness and whatnot, and so tell me a little bit more about that.
So I'm a health coach. So I work with clients either with nutrition plans, programs, movement programs. I like to say movement instead of exercise, and I'll get into that later. And right now I also want to talk about, because I'm super grateful. So I live in Laredo. Yeah. In terms of wellness and health, it's not like I don't want to say super big market, because people obviously like want to invest in all that, but I feel like there's not a lot of variety, and everyone's like kind of preaching the same thing and doing the same thing. And I feel like my message is very different, but like I said, we can get into that. But I saw someone on social media and Laredo, like doing something completely different. His population is more middle school and high school athletes.
Okay.
But I would see his content and like, I was like, damn, like this guy knows what he's doing. And I come from a soccer background. Like I've played soccer my whole life. So sports and competition is a big part of my life.
For sure.
And since it's middle school and high school athletes, I was like, damn, like that environment looks super cool. He knows what he's doing. Like, so I reached out to him and just see if I could intern and learn from him because that's all I really want to do. His name is Coach Rick Castillo. Super, I mean, I've known him for like 3 weeks. But from the short time that I've known him, super great guy. Took me in, like showed me everything. Like, because in that space, there's a lot of like, well, maybe you're going to take my people or stuff like that, you know? This guy's been super open, super like a great mentor. In 3 weeks, he's become a mentor for me. So I've been around that environment, learning from him. And ultimately, like, my passion is health, but just because I come from like the sports background, I would love to have at least a couple clients that compete just to be around that environment. Yeah. You know? I miss it. But he's a school teacher, apart from being a coach, a sports performance coach. So he has an amazing facility in Laredo, which is not being used in the mornings. So he's grown a following, you know, because his message like relates to people. He's genuine. Yeah. He's honestly trying to make kids better, and obviously the parents love that, you know. So we're trying to take those concepts into an adult class. Right. So taking a little bit of performance, because we all have to perform, whether it's you know, you don't have to be an athlete to be able to move. Exactly. Well, and just improve their health. So right now I have my clients and we're working together, which I'm super excited about, just to be able to do something with them. Yeah. We're working together to create an adult class.
What ages? What, I mean, obviously adult statistically or technically is like above 18 or 19, right? But obviously I'm assuming that there's a more specific age range that you guys consider adults, or?
So I'm going to be honest with you. We're like, on Monday is going to be our first day. Okay, yeah. I don't know when this comes out, but Monday
well, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, this Monday coming up?
Yeah, this Monday coming up.
So like, because today's Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. So Monday we're starting that class, and honestly, this is a brand new, like, it's something completely new. We're thinking right now the age of the parents that take their kids to
school?
No. To the, like, performance.
Okay, so classes. For the kids' performance, right? You're talking about, you're going to, the word is target, right? And that the parents that take their kids to the kids' performance.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. But it doesn't have to, like, necessarily be to them. We just want to focus on adults. That could be maybe 25, 30, whatever it is, that want to improve their health, that want to get better physically, mentally, even spiritually, and just improve their quality of life. That's what we're trying to target.
Man, that's cool. I think that's a good idea. Especially, I mean, I've only been in Laredo 2 years, obviously, when I played for Texas and the TAMU. It's like 2012, 2014. So what would you do in these classes, right? I mean, do you guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have, what is your goal in each of these classes, right? Okay. What do you guys have planned?
Yeah, so our main goal is health, improving their health. Strength is a big part of health, you know? As we age, especially that population, as we age, we start losing muscle, which can lead to injuries, just a lower quality of life, you know, not being able to move. I mean, as a parent or a grandparent or whatever age you are, you want to be able to play with your kids, carry your kids, you know? So a lot of classes like that, they're geared towards high intensity. Okay.
Usually, right?
Yeah, usually. Booty pump, like all these things, you know? And I get it, because that's what sells. Like, people, I feel like there's a huge disconnection in health and fitness. Like, fitness is a component of health, but it's not all of it, you know? So I feel like people are misguided to think that, oh, if I sweat, if I feel sore, that means I'm doing good. And if that's your thing, that's fine. But we do have to be aware that there's a difference between working out to get sore, to sweat, to like get your heart rate up, and training to get stronger, to move better, to get healthier, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. And personally, in Laredo, I don't see anything like it, you know? Everything's geared towards higher intensity, that type of thing. So we want to take a more holistic approach, we want you to get stronger because it's an important part of health, but we also incorporate mobility. We also incorporate, my philosophy, we have these basic movements that as humans, we perform on a daily basis. That's squatting, that's hinging, that's lunging, that's pressing, that's rowing. So ultimately, focusing on those movements, obviously through variety and stuff like that, that's where you get the most bang for your buck.
Yep.
And when it comes to strength, which is an important component of health, focusing on those movements and getting stronger in those is just going to lead to a better physique, moving better. So that's what we're trying to bring.
For sure, man. I think, and as you're talking, I'm over here imagining like, so my mom had an injury. I mean, that's probably like 3 years now, maybe 4. I'd say 3. She fell. I think one time she went like bowling or something. Don't quote me, but it was something like she went bowling and she fell and she hit her knee, like directly in her knee. And my mom's the type that, you know, her exercise was walking, right? And obviously compared to doing nothing, walking is going to be very good. But and now you're talking about, you know, doing actual exercises or programs for that age range of people, I think would be massively beneficial, because I know for a fact that if my mom was stronger, maybe more coordinated, and she just kind of felt more confident in her like everyday being, that even if she did get injured, I'm not saying that it would have avoided the injury, but if she did get injured, it wouldn't have affected her that bad, because after she got injured, she was in like so many complications went wrong, because it started with the knee and then it started with the hip, right? Because from the limping, and then everything starts to like affect other parts of the body. And she went through something for like 1.5 years, 2 years of pretty much pure pain. Doctors in Monterrey, doctors in Progreso, doctors here, and they just couldn't really. It was just a lot of scans, a lot of tests. And I always try to preach to my parents, especially my mom and dad, you guys getting older, you guys need to do something to get stronger. You're completely correct. A lot of people, when they think about, hey, you need exercise, what comes to mind? Fitness, high intensity, you know, reps this, reps that, whatever. It's like there should be something kind of geared towards, you know, parents or grandparents of that age range, that we can take care of them, we can monitor them, we can make them stronger, more coordinated. I think, where are we at now? March. So I think like in November, this past November as well, my mom fell again. So we went to eat at a burger place here, and you know, she was just taking pictures of us, because she always takes pictures of everything. And out of nowhere, like we were in the parking lot, she took a step back and she hit the, you know, when you park the little, so she went to back up, so her heel hit it, and obviously she wasn't strong enough or coordinated enough or quick enough to take an extra step to keep herself from falling, so she fell, and like we all saw her fall. So that was like, it's like, I guess you really don't know how important it is for your parents or your grandparents to be strong and coordinated enough until you actually see them fall. And I think it's awesome that you're coming in and you're talking about having programs that can be geared towards that, because I truly believe that if we can coordinate our parents, if we can make them stronger, make them more efficient in their movements, and besides the benefit of them feeling better, they can avoid a lot of injuries.
No, yeah. First of all, I'm sorry about that. And I mean, honestly, man, health, and it can be either injuries or like disease or stuff like that. At some point of our life, it becomes a priority. Yeah. Whether it's because you're proactive and you take that into your own hands, or injuries, disease, 100%. And there's at that point there's not as much you can do as if you were proactive about it. So I get it, because today in our society, we put a lot of focus into all these other things, like maybe you have to work 2 jobs, or you're caught up in this, caught up in that, and our health is kind of pushed aside, which is unfortunate, because it's really, to me, the most important thing you can do for yourself. And it affects all aspects of your life, you know, whether if you want to get better in your job, relationships, or just personal development, you know, like resistance training, health, all those things, nutrition, movement. It's a huge part of affecting those other components of life. And when it comes to like things like mobility, resistance, it's really that's a beautiful part of it about it, that it can be manipulated for anyone, you know?
Yeah.
And there's this misconcept that like, oh, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get too big, especially for females or stuff like that. And it's like, bro, I've been trying to get big for like
it's
3-4 years.
It's
not easy. No, but yeah, but it's a huge part of avoiding injury, moving better quality of life. And it's not just for one target, like the bodybuilders, all that. Like literally anyone and everyone will benefit from resistance training, from mobility, and that's all I'm trying to do. That's like, because I also feel like a lot of people, when they want to lose weight or stuff like that, they either do cardio, which, like you said, doing something is better than nothing.
For sure.
But it's not optimal. There's a lot of better things you can do. Or, and this is what I see, they go into like a gym with a bodybuilding coach, because that's like, at least where I'm from, the majority of coaches. And they take a bodybuilding approach because that's what they know. And again, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not optimal. So I feel like there's a huge middle ground that's lost between fitness and health. And I'm just trying to connect those two.
And I think you're right.
Makes sense.
I think you're right. I also think that so it's kind of the concept of doing something is better than nothing, right? But I think that comes from a lack of education overall, you know, to the mass. I think you're right. I think there is a gap between fitness, you know, what fitness is or is basically publicly understood, right? And health itself and what health can be or what health is. And sometimes we think, okay, we want to be healthy, you know, let's go to the gym. And, you know, like you mentioned, maybe in your area, you see a lot of the bodybuilding approaches. And maybe to most common people, they do think that maybe this is the way to be healthy kind of thing, right? But you're right. There is a gray area or an area that can't be lost, because you can be healthy without having to take that approach, right? And essentially, maybe you can still be healthy if you take that approach, maybe, but maybe people don't know that they can be healthy without having to take that approach, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And you can certainly be healthy, but I like
it's not optimal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I worked at a big box gym where like I have friends that compete in bodybuilding. They were not healthy, and that's one of the issues I have, that bodybuilders are seen as health, or like that's the image of health, you know, and they're not healthy. And I'm not bashing on them, because it is a sport and you have to be.
Oh, it's tough.
Yeah. You have to be strong mentally, and like there's a lot of things, but that is not equated to health, you know. And it would really piss me off when like I was working at the gym and see the nutrition programs that we're having for people, or like your average Joe, your common person that just wants to be in shape, feel better, and they're training like a bodybuilder, they're eating like a bodybuilder, and it just sucks, because okay, if you enjoy it, all the power to you, you go do that, but it's a very extreme approach, you know. So, and people, I see it a lot in fitness, like they have a all or nothing approach. So they'll do that and like, no, it's because I have to eat this many meals, and it has to be weight, and it has to be this, and it has to be that. And the moment, because like for the average person, like me and you, that's not always feasible. Like you can't always be measuring your food. You can't always be taking your meals, stuff like that. So when you miss one meal or stuff, it's like, oh, well, everything's gone to crap, you know?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't live in black or white. Like you said, we should be living in that gray area, especially for health. You know, like you don't need to take an all or nothing approach. And an analogy that I heard that I really like, it's like, let's say you fill up your gas tank with $50, right? It's running on low and you only have $10. Are you going to let your car like be empty because you don't have the $50, or are you going to invest those $10? Exactly. You know? So people are like, no, it's because I have to work out an hour. And if I don't have it, I don't go.
Okay.
Or I have to eat like my 6 meals. It's like, no, go for a walk for 10, 20 minutes. Get as good a meal as you can. Like things like that. And those things compounded over time is what's going to give you results. these extreme approach, they work for like maybe a month, 2 months. But how many people do you know that like try a challenge or get a personal trainer and they go all in, and then you see them 6 months, 8 months, and they're right back where they started, you know? Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, man. Okay, so one thing that I want to just kind of continue on was the concept of an all in or nothing approach, right? I definitely think that's something that a lot of people are not aware of, because I've done it myself, and it does not benefit. I guess there's positives to it and there's negatives to it, right? Because if you have an all in or nothing approach and you're all in, it's possible that you back yourself into a corner where it puts pressure on you to complete your goals. But the downside of that is, once one little thing goes wrong, it's not all in, it's nothing, right? You just like you mentioned earlier, it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm supposed to work out, let's say, an hour a day. And then you find yourself only having 30 minutes to work out. You'd be like, oh, if I'm not going to complete the hour, then why am I going to do the 30 minutes? And then you mentioned that basically, even if you can work out 30 minutes or even a fraction of the time that you're supposed to, you know, doing those things over time are going to compound, right? They're going to compound, and they're going to put you into behaviors and habits to, whenever you do have the hour to work out, you're going to basically be at that point where you're going to have more probability of doing that 1 hour workout after not doing it, let's say, for like 5 days, than doing that 1 hour workout from not doing anything for 5 days, right? So I definitely think that's something that a lot of people need to be aware of. And it's not just in the gym. I think it's also in their daily lives and their work, certain goals that they might have for themselves, eating, exercising, maybe saving money or whatever it may be. It's like, okay, well, at the end of each week, I'm supposed to save $200, right? And it's like, okay, well, I only have, let's say, $50 by the end of the week. It's like, well, you know what? Since I can't save $200, I'm gonna go spend the $50, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, whether or not you're 100% at your goal, I definitely think that it's still worth investing the action that you're supposed to, even if it's much smaller. So I think it's a phenomenal concept, you said.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing about health and training and all those things. Like, the approach and the principles you use for that, you carry out in other aspects of your life. So for me as a coach, like, it's also made me check myself, because sometimes I'm preaching about this in health. And like you said, you can apply it to finances, to all these things. I'm like, well, I'm preaching this in this aspect of my life, I better make sure I'm applying it in all aspects of my life, you know? And it's easier said than done. And for me personally, I'm still in the journey of like improving, like I'm trying to grow a business, like all those things. And those principles that I take from health, I'm applying in other aspects of my life. So that's really cool. And I think it goes back to consistency over intensity, you know? Yeah. And people have to, well, not that they have to, but if they want to be healthier, they have to start looking at sustainability, you know? Like, what you're doing right now, can you realistically do for the next
long period of time,
5 years, 10 years? Because, yeah, sure, there's benefit. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash on anything. There's benefits to everything. But it's also not cool for you to go 100%, 110% for like a month, 3 months. And like we said, end up 6 months, a year from now in the same place you started. So rather taking a more holistic, more sustainable approach, because over time, that's what's going to get you to your goals.
100%.
And like we talked about, like compound interest.
Yeah.
It's that we're making small investments every day. And there's going to be times, like you said, talking about money to health, there's going to be times where you can deposit $50 into your savings, or there's times where you deposit 100. But the thing is to keep depositing what you can, and like day by day, month by month, year by year, that's going to keep growing. And that's the approach I'm trying to bring. Yeah,
man. That actually, that's good to talk about. That's good to kind of bring awareness to that, because I kind of think of it in a sense like in a race, right? And let's say a mile race, right? And a track that's 4 laps, correct? Like, I was making sure I was doing it. So let's say you're kind of running a race against someone else, and it's not a race because obviously everybody's on their own journey, but for the visual sense, it's like if at the end of it, you're supposed to run 4 laps to complete a mile, right? That's your goal, and that's your opponent's goal. And your opponent takes the approach of sprinting from the very start as fast as he can, right? And you take the approach of a measured pace, right, to get you through the 4 laps at a consistency or at a consistent pace. And it's like, it's very possible. I mean, everybody has, the exception to the rule, but it's very possible that the person who takes off on a sprint and tries to sprint through the whole way is going to burn out way before the person who is you that paces yourself for the 4 laps, right, to complete the mile. And more likely than not, you're going to finish the race before the person who burns out, right? So you talk about whenever you're doing things to take an approach that is realistic and it's going to be sustainable over a long period of time, because I've seen it multiple times. And you know what I'm starting to realize is that every time I have a podcast, like we end up on the exercise talk and topic, which I don't mind at all, but it's like, I never even thought like it was going to be that consistent, but I enjoy exercise a lot, man. Like health and fitness. I enjoy it a lot. So, but more likely than not, taking the approach of a realistic goal and making it sustainable is very important, because I've seen people who, okay, you know what? In January, New Year's resolution, I'm going to start working out. What do? They go to the gym, balls to the walls. Like balls to the walls. They work out as hard as they can. Their New Year's resolution is to eat well as well. And they go to the extreme, and everything that they've been doing for the past year, they cut it down to salads. Like they cut it down to salads and cold cut turkeys or whatever. Yeah. And they do that for like maybe 7 days. The gym hard 7 days, eating salads and clean 7 days. And then what do? Is like, I can't do this. I can't keep up with this. You're 100% right. You can't keep up with it, because that's not realistic for you, right? That's not where you come from. And I think most of us do make that mistake. It's like, okay, there's no problem if you have at the moment, very bad habits for eating or exercise in your lifestyle, and you have to take small increment steps to better that situation. There's nothing wrong with that. You have the rest of your life to get to a certain version of yourself that's much better than where you are right now. You don't have to sprint the 4 laps, right? Like, why don't we start slow, and then once you gain some momentum and you start feeling better, you start seeing the benefits. It's like, why don't we start speeding it up in the future, right? There's no need to take a all or nothing approach, No,
that's really good. That's a really good comparison. I guess also with social media, and you see this dude, you see this girl, the influencer, and you're like, damn, why don't I look like that? And I do see when it comes to health or weight or stuff like that, which, by the way, I think we really do a big disservice to ourselves when we focus on our weight and only our weight. People are like, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to do this. I want to look this way. And it's like, your body does so much for you, from like digesting food, you being able to think, like your cells are regenerating every so often. You're producing hormones for you to be able to be an active individual. Yeah. And you focus on your weight, so you eat to like hit a certain number on the scale. And meanwhile, all these functions are going on behind the scenes. Like, they need energy, they need nutrients, but you're so caught up in like what the scale says that you neglect those aspects. Sure. And that's when you start feeling like crappy, low energy, low libido, all these things, So I'm just going on all these tangents, but
it's good.
Going back to it, like, health also looks different for everyone. Yeah, 100%. And like you said, maybe for you, it's better to jog, and that's what you need to do. And maybe we get to the point where maybe you can sprint a lap or stuff like that. But we need to focus on your lane. Yeah. Don't worry about what the other person in the other lane is doing, and take it step by step. But what I was trying to say is, like, people, when it comes to weight and all that, they want results yesterday. Yes. Like, no, I like to say, like, did it take you, like, did you gain this weight in 1 week? Like, no, it was usually like a couple months, maybe a year, right? Yeah. So you can't expect to like be where you want to be overnight. Yeah, we can focus on small wins, and like week by week, month by month, you're gonna notice changes and you're gonna feel better. Yeah. But if you go into it saying like it's good to have a goal and the end date, because of course it keeps you accountable. Yep. I need to work on this. But if you're like going into, no, I need to do this now, that's what leads to doing unhealthy approaches. 100%. The drastic diets, the extreme cardio, things like that. So you're really doing yourself a disservice by wanting those results yesterday.
Yeah. Without being patient, you tend to you tend to take action, but you tend to take bad action that ironically push your goal further away, right?
Yeah.
It's weird, man, because I've been in that position and like we're talking about it now and I'm kind of like thinking to myself, it's like, that's 100% true. Just recently, I've kind of come to the, what's it called?
Realization?
Come to the realization or the agreement that it's like, you know what? I have the rest of my life to kind of get to the goal where I'm at. It's like, I'll take it day by day. I just got done talking to you about, and real quick before I move on. So our topic right now, our conversation is obviously health for anyone, right? But essentially the age range that we were talking about, it's like parents and things like that and grandparents. And because I know some, how do I say this? I think there is a difference, and I'm going to say this for lack of better words, like the average Joe and people who compete, athletes or high level bodybuilders. Like yesterday, I had Servando on. He's a strongman competitor, right? So he got second in the Arnold Classic, and this guy's a monster, right? So he has to do a lot of extreme things, like in regards to eating, to keep up, right? And I mean, just to kind of give you he on a daily basis, he eats 6,500 calories, right? And he looks good. Yeah. He looks good. And obviously, from a more specifically, maybe in detailed health perspective, that can be, what do you call it? Looked at in a different way, but he competes, and that's what it requires, right? So for the average Joe, like me right now, I consider myself an average Joe. I left the high level soccer competition probably a while ago, and obviously the trainings that I used to do compared to the trainings that I do now, 100% different. And I do focus on my health to the best of my ability. It's tough, man. It's tough when you come from bad habits, like, especially with the culture that, I'm from and we're from, the tortillas and things like that. It's so delicious. And it's hard to give up, but I think it's either you make it a priority or you don't. And if you don't, you got to pay the price. And if you do, you still got to pay the price. But I think the difference is which price do you want to pay? The price of being sick or the price of what you have to sacrifice to be healthy, kind of thing, right? Dang it. I forgot what I was saying before I went on that.
But just to touch up on what you were saying, like also that I feel like, and it really does piss me off because a lot of people are misguided or there's a lot of iffy information out there. So for example, a lot of things that I see like, oh, I can't eat this or I can't eat that or stuff like that. Rather than I wish there was an easier way to create awareness, but there's so much money behind like certain pushing
a lot of marketing.
Exactly.
A lot of marketing.
So pushing certain messages and vilifying this food group because that means you have to eat this and there's profit in that. So things like that. And a lot of people like, oh, I can't eat this because this is better. And I get it. Like you see something on social media, or you see something in the news, but it's unfortunate because there's so much politics or money behind it. But that's not the point. I'm not going to get into that right now. Maybe we can have a later conversation on that. But yeah, it goes back to creating an awareness with food. Because it's also not the best way to live, thinking like, oh, I have to sacrifice this, I have to sacrifice that.
Agreed.
So rather than that, like, I feel like for the most part, we base our food choices on one factor, and that's taste, right? For the most part.
Oh, for sure.
And there's so many factors that go with nutrition, so like how well you digest food or how well you feel, mental clarity. Those are all things that come with your nutrition. Those are effective with nutrition. So when you create awareness of like, oh, when I eat this, I just don't feel 100%, or when I eat this, I feel lethargic, I feel slow, or when I eat this, my digestion like, nah. So when you start realizing and bringing awareness on those things, it's easier to make choices based on like what's important to you. So like maybe you're like, I don't know, you have a weekend with your friends and you're going out for pizza. So maybe in that weekend, it's important for you to have a good time with your friends and enjoy stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't feel guilty about it.
Right.
You can enjoy it. And maybe another weekend, you're like, you know what? Tomorrow I have a soccer game early. So I want to wake up early. I want to feel energetic. I want to be present. I want to have good energy for the kids. So today I'm going to skip on the pizza and eat something that I know is going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
So I think that approach is also easier because I wouldn't want to live a life where I'm constantly saying no to things
rules,
I enjoy.
rules,
Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think you make a very, very, very good point. And that's kind of what I think a lot of people don't understand is that what you eat is literally a big factor on what and how you feel. And how you feel is essentially going to affect like the rest of your life, right? So I definitely think health and the nutrition that you eat is, man, for me, it would have to be like at the top. It would have to be at the top, like right over exercise, right? Because exercise makes you feel phenomenal. Exercise, it's, statistically or it's proven, that exercise makes you feel better. That's why sometimes I'm like, why is it so hard for people to work out when it literally, chemically makes you feel better, right?
Yeah.
But health has to be on top because like if you had to choose one or the other, it's tough. It's tough because some people will say, I'd rather choose exercise because it becomes stronger and whatnot. But it's like, what about the quality of your life, right? Because I think health affects absolutely everything in your life. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast it affects your job, your relationships. It affects just the way you feel, your mental clarity. Like I notice, and I do this because I'm a person who observes a lot of my own life and what things do for me. And whenever you talked about, there's a lot of factors when it goes into eating, right? Besides the taste, right? The way it makes you feel, the way your digestive system. So you start trying to focus on what the food can do for you rather than how it tastes, right? And I definitely think I think that's the biggest tilting point. It's like once you start realizing what each food can do for you, it's like you start really prioritizing those foods. I've already noticed differences like in my breakfasts because I think breakfast for me is the most important because it literally will determine how I feel within at least the next 5 hours, depending on what I eat in the morning. So I've gone from, my mom is a daily cook, so she'll cook breakfast every single morning. She makes it in a certain way that I noticed, and I didn't notice until maybe the last year, that every time I eat her breakfast, it's the most delicious in the world, right? She knows that. But I do feel that the next 5 hours, I'm gonna have so much trouble feeling good. I feel heavy. I feel lethargic. I feel sleepy. I cannot fight. I will 100% take a nap if I have my mom's breakfast in the morning, right? So then I started, okay, let me see if this is true or this is just how I am with common breakfast. So then I started taking different approaches, right? Less oil, cleaner eggs, just cleaner ingredients, things like that. And it's day and night for me. It's like when I don't have my mom's breakfast, it's like I'm more energetic. I can think clearly. I'm thinking about the things that I have to do next. I don't take naps. That's 100% proven with me. And it becomes very obvious. So for me, it all started with breakfast. And obviously a day consists of, let's say 16 hours because you sleep 8, whatever. So it's like your lunch has to be solid too. It has to be cleanish. You have to really look into the foods that you eat. So the whole day that you're awake and you want to be productive, you can be productive. Other than that, if you don't watch what you eat, you are at the expense of feeling terrible and putting everything else around you at risk, your relationships, your job, and you're making a massive disservice to yourself, right?
Yeah. So. And people, it's unfortunate, don't get to feel what you felt like, And I feel like a lot of people that get into this, that's why they preach it so much. Because, for example, I know the difference I felt, and I know who I was or how I was eating a certain way or sleeping a certain amount of hours or not exercising, stuff like that. And I know who I am when I do those little things. And like you said, it's day and night, and it's like such a world of difference. So also, I feel like preaching that, like, hey, before you get into macros, because that's also a lot of when in the beginning, before you get into macros, before you get into calories or how many meals you have to eat a day, focus on the quality of your food. Start with one meal. Like if you're eating fast food every day, substitute that with something homemade. Something you enjoy. It can be chicken, steak, get some veggies, get some fruit. Start with one meal and see how that feels. Oh, okay, you're starting to notice how you feel? All right, let's make it 2 meals. Stuff like that. And going back to the other thing, to those people that are like, oh, I prefer exercise. I get the sentiment. But, you are only as strong as what you can recover from. So if you work your butt off in the gym, and all that is a stress for the body, you know. And we need stress to be able to adapt. If you don't put your body through stress, it's gonna stay where it's at. So if you're putting all that stress and you're not focusing on your sleep, you're not focusing on your nutrition, you're not gonna get the results you could be doing. And to put all that effort just to leave so much on the table, like you're doing a disservice to yourself. So when I think of health, it's like a whole, like a holistic approach. You know, everything's connected. And that's what I try to bring. Like, yes, we're gonna focus on movement, but we also have to focus on your sleep. We have to focus on your nutrition. Cool. Breath is a huge thing, which I'm getting into. Like, don't feel I'm an expert there. Yeah. But it's such an
breathing.
Breathing. Yeah.
I recently as well have caught some interest into it because I've heard that it's correct breathing or certain breathing techniques can be very beneficial to you, and that's basically where I'm at right now. I haven't had the time to kind of just, I would love to, because I'm into a lot of, you know, personal development and what I can do to make me feel better. Whether I do it or not usually is the struggle point, but my interest is in that for sure. So
yeah, I just want to shout out someone super quick, bro, because like at this point that I am as a coach, as a human being, I owe it a lot to a lot of people. My parents, my brother. When it comes to health, there's a couple. The guy's name is Christian Placencia. They're based in Austin. And Natalie Higby. They have their own brand called The Durable Athlete. Anyone who watches this, I highly recommend.
Durable Athlete?
Yeah, I'll show you their app afterwards so you can see some things. I worked with him. He's more of a, like, that's where I learned a lot of things regarding movement and working in to recover rather than working out, and knowing what approaches to take regarding that. But because of my voice, I have this habit of like breathing through my mouth. And that's the way he explained to me was like, when you take those fast, like short breaths to your body, it's like the same as you would when you gasp. Like you see something scary, like, so you like engage that fight or flight system, you know? Like, so he taught me like how to breathe from the
diaphragm.
There you go.
Okay.
And it was like when we were doing certain exercises, and it was just breathing. Yeah. Like focus on this, focus on that. I was like, what the hell? And the way I felt, like energy wise, just all these things, bro, it was crazy. And I'm nowhere near his level, but someday I hope to be able to learn all that so I can help someone the way he helped me. It's crazy, bro.
That's interesting. And Durable Athlete. That's and this guy's from Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in Austin. He's from California, but they're in Austin.
Okay, yeah, okay. I've heard some very interesting takes on breathing, man. I think, which is funny because how old are you?
25.
Okay, I'm 29. So I didn't know I was older than you. Okay, cool. Yeah. I've heard some interesting takes on breathing, like certain techniques for a lot of reasons. The trippiest one, not to get too off course, but I say this because this is how interesting. Just knowing how to breathe correctly can do so many things for you. One of the recent ones that I've heard, and I heard it on the Joe Rogan podcast. I listen to Joe Rogan crazy a lot. Yeah, dude. I almost shamefully have, I'd have to say, close to 100 hours of Joe Rogan podcast. You know, but on one of the episodes that he mentioned was that people do breathing techniques specifically to go on a psychedelic trip, essentially. And I think that's crazy because like the way they speak about it, it's undoubtedly true, right? I think Joe Rogan has done it before in some of the guests that come on. But if just breathing itself can take you on a psychedelic trip, I can't imagine what other benefits it can give to an athlete or to someone if they just learn it correctly. And why don't we know about this, right? Why isn't it at least like even talked about like in gym class or in schools growing up? It's like, why do we have to wait almost for us to be 25, 29 or whatever age to barely get introduced to it, right? When there's so many health benefits to it. It's so strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can go on
I know.
But yeah, bro, I mean, honestly, part of my approach is also, I think nature is so wise, and inherently we're like born like with a certain wisdom. And right now with social media, with the way we eat, it's so easy to like just technology, the metaverse, all these things. We can go into all these rabbit holes. Yeah. And I don't want to sound too crazy right now. Yeah. But yeah, just as something as simple as your breath can unlock so much of like your potential in so many different things, whether it's mental clarity, whether it's your performance, so many things. And it's really unfortunate that we don't, like, you have to go out of your way.
You have to go out of your way to even maybe find it, right?
Yeah.
That's unfair.
Have you ever heard of Wim Hof, the Iceman?
Wim Hof, only from someone on Twitter, but I have not personally engaged in it yet.
Okay. That's one of my bucket lists, like get personally a like breathing session.
Yeah.
That guy is a wizard when it comes to breath and all that. But yeah, breath is also a big part of health. But going back to like some of the things we've been talking about, people want everything now and fast paced, and when they go to the gym, they want to feel like they're sweating so to take someone like, hey, let's focus on breath. Why? Like I want to move, stuff like that. So that's also part of my purpose in this life, kind of shifting the focus on health. Yeah. Because right now it's like going back to it's so focused on macros and lifting weights and sweating and burning, and I get it because that's sexy to sell, like, and I feel so sore, that means I'm doing a good job. But I feel like that's also why we're seeing so many of the health problems we're seeing, because people are doing all or nothing approaches, people are misguided, things like that. And rather than bashing on it, and that's why I was so persistent on like coming here, which again, I'm so thankful for having me, is I really do feel like, and this message I didn't come up with. I wish, but from my mentors, from the people I followed, from like, I'm trying to join them in the movement. Yeah, in the movement of shifting people's awareness to health. Because at the end of the day, we want to empower people. By empowering people, you're making this world a better place. They're going to be better parents, better friends, better spouses. And ultimately, before I die, I just want to leave my grain of salt of improving in whatever way. To me, it's through health, but making this world a better place.
Man, I think you're on your way for sure. I think you are correct in what you're trying to do. I love the message. It's true. Not everybody is an athlete. Not everybody has that competitive mindset, in a sense where they have to feel sore or sweat a lot in the gym to feel accomplished, in a sense, right? Because you mentioned, hey, let's do some breathing techniques. It's like, for what? I'm not gonna sweat. It's like, I won't feel accomplished. A lot of people do it to feel accomplished. I'm not gonna lie. Just recently, I started moving into the realization that I don't need to always sweat, and basically, depending on my goals, of course, but it's like I could still get a solid workout without having to be drenched in sweat, right? So we come from a soccer background, right? Quick question: did you ever train with Coach David?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I know you from.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. I was like, I know it. Okay, that's where it's from. So I've never trained harder than when I used to train with Coach David in Austin, right? So he was our private trainer, technical trainer for soccer, and he used to have the most intense workouts. Like it was ridiculous. So there was a point where it was like a group of us. I think it was like seven players. We would train 3 times a day with Coach David, 3 times a day, and each session was 2 hours. So we would train, eat, recover, train, recover, right? And every single session, it was brutal, right? So I literally have always been that type of person that when I exercise, and then after like soccer, I joined CrossFit, right? So you can imagine CrossFit was always drenching in sweat, sore. It wasn't just till recently, maybe within the last 8 months to a year, that I started doing like different exercises that didn't always leave me drenched in sweat. And it was always hard for me to be like, oh, it's okay. Like, you still got a good workout. You're good. Like, it doesn't mean you didn't work hard, like if you didn't sweat or whatever. But I do prefer to sweat because psychologically, that's kind of what I need, even though maybe that's not what is necessary. So yeah, I definitely think that you're right. Like, people have to kind of open up their minds to like different horizons, and I think you are trying to bridge that gap. And I definitely think that you guys are onto something for a group of people that need it. My word is need it. And so yeah, man, I think you're on your way.
Yeah, going to your first point, like ultimately the best form of exercise is the one you enjoy, because that's what you're going to do the longest. So also as a coach, it's cool. It's a challenge. Now I see it that way because in the beginning I was like, oh damn, like this guy just doesn't like. If I were to get an agent, it's like this guy just wants to do that. But now it's a challenge of like, how can I give you what you need with what you want?
Yeah,
you get me. So okay, I know this is gonna benefit you the most, but let me throw in something that's gonna get your heart rate up. That's gonna like make you sweat without taxing you, without breaking you down so much. So it's a challenge, and ultimately there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing inherently bad about it, but we're just trying to get people optimal results. You know, if you're going to invest whatever time it is, I want you to get the most out of that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a challenge. And also whatever it is you enjoy doing, don't let anyone like, there's optimal ways of doing it, but whatever you're going to do the longest is what's going to work best for you. And each person is very different, very
for
unique.
sure. That's the beautiful thing about working with different types of people as well. It's like, and I still coach here. Mm-hmm. Like, I got a team, a soccer team. And so I'll have like little quick talks with the other coach as well, who has another team. And sometimes we'll talk about, our coaching styles and things like that. And I think one of the most beautiful things about working with the group is that in this sense, every player is not the same player. Every player doesn't have the same personality. Every player doesn't take like the message the same. And so essentially as a coach, you have to be creative in how you deliver messages and how you coach essentially, because though you have a team of 10 players, you coach to the group most of the time, but you also have to learn to coach to each individual. Yeah. And I think that's one of the coolest things about coaching, whether it be like in fitness or in any other sport, just being able to be creative to find solutions for clients that need something, and you be creative enough to find something to combine it with something they want. Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool. So
yeah, going back to like, it's made me grow in many aspects of my life. Like I can't be hard-headed because I tend to be like that, Yeah. Like, no, it's this way. So no, like it's also made me more open-minded, also more open to other people's approach and meeting them somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So all these aspects that I apply in health, like I'm applying overall in life. So
hey man, you're young though, 25.
25, yeah. I mean,
how long have you been doing this?
So I got my first certification like I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, but I was so insecure, bro. I was like, and also because I had trained with really, really good coaches, like I invested in that. And I would compare myself to them, which comparison is the thief of joy.
100%.
And so I was too scared to do anything. And it wasn't until like I stepped into a big box gym and I was like, what these people are saying, like I'm not where these people that I trained with are, but I know that I can still provide value to these 100%. People. So then that like was about maybe 2-3 years ago. And then I left for a while to Mexico because ultimately one of my goals in life is to live on my own land, have my own animals, like make my, be self-sufficient. So I went to Mexico to like live in a ranch and kind of learn how the process of growing food and all that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because that's one thing. We're so disconnected from our food,
100%.
Like we don't know how it got there. We don't know how to grow it. We don't know anything. And I include myself in that. So I wanted to learn that. So that time I was working with nutrition clients, but then I came back and it's been 1.5 years, 2 years of like just this, like I had already decided before, but saying this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Nothing fills me like this. Like I can talk about this all day. I can read on this all day. I can listen to podcasts all day. It's like, this is what I want to do. And the rest of my life is going to be dedicated to get better so I can serve the best that I can.
Hey, that's cool, man. Yeah. From what you just told me, and you have a pretty clear vision of what you want to do. Oh my gosh, man! You know what? I'm sometimes I'm jealous of that because it's like in yesterday's podcast, I was talking to Servando. He has obviously a clear vision himself about what he wants to do, and he kind of essentially knows what he wants in the future, and that's what you just told me. And I don't want to touch too much on it because I did a whole segment on it yesterday, but a lot of people struggle with that. A lot, but I think the word struggle is a lack of a better word because some people go into borderline depression, like whenever they don't know what the future looks like, they don't know what they want, they don't know what to do. and they struggle with their present self, right? Because it's like, if you don't know what you want in the future, you don't know what you want to do, then it's like you hardly appreciate who you are now. And for you to speak that way, man, like your eyes just lit up whenever you're going on about it. I think that's phenomenal. I definitely think that's something that's undoubtedly what you need to continue to pursue. And obviously, you don't need anybody to tell you that because you're 110% convinced. And I think that's awesome within itself, man.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm super privileged, bro, and I'm so grateful. Like, my parents from the jump have been super supportive, whether we do soccer, whether we do this, and my dad, especially because of his upbringing, has pushed me like, don't settle, find whatever it is you love and go look for it. So like financially, he supported me a lot, and I know some people don't have that privilege, so I'm super grateful and I'm aware of that. So I just want to do what I can to like help people in the ways people have helped me. But yeah, bro, like I feel like at certain points in my life, even being young, just went through some depressions, and it's because you're kind of like told what is good or what is normal. Like, you get a job, you go to school, you get a job, you buy your house and stuff like that. And not to sound cheesy, but at the end of the day, it's who I am. Like, I believe we're souls living a human experience. 100%. So when your soul doesn't get that chance to live, it's like
purpose.
Purpose. Yeah. Which is funny because that's the name of my brand.
Purpose?
So, yeah, purpose.
Okay, cool.
So that's really cool. When you don't get to live out your purpose, like, your soul is going to manifest, and it's usually like through depression, like that. And I see it as like, as your soul being like, bro, please just give me a chance to, like, you're going to be here for a limited amount of time. Like, let's really do what you came here to do. And unfortunately, people get stuck in that trap of like, go to school, get a job, which there's nothing wrong with it if that's what you enjoy. But life is too short to be
100%
not living what you want to
do. That was cool. That's the first time I ever heard that. I've heard that, and I completely agree that we're a soul living a physical experience, 100%. But I definitely think that whenever you said that your soul has to manifest itself somehow, and if you're not at least giving some time to what you think your purpose is, then that is your soul begging for an opportunity, right? And whenever something begs, it's usually a negative connotation attached to it, in a sense that depression comes in because it's not getting what it wants, not even a little bit, right? And you're right. I think everybody does have a purpose, and we do get caught up on what needs to be done correctly, right? And essentially, that's what you mentioned: going to school, getting a job, and it's so difficult, man. It's so difficult, and that's why, for me, like, I sometimes struggle with what it is I want to do in the future, right? I'm in that. How do you call it? So soccer for me, like, my whole life, right? And so when I got done with it, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do now, right? So now I'm in that space where it's like, okay, well, I love helping people in any way I can. How can I affect people in a positive way? And essentially, like, this is why I started the podcast in the first place. Just talking to people, right? Maybe having a conversation that people can relate to. Like, this is, although it's basically not my full time, I'm giving time and attention to something that I feel can be or is my purpose. You know what I mean? And that kind of keeps me balanced at the moment. I hope that in the future that, I can continue to do this. But there was a point where it's funny the way you described it was like your soul kind of being like, hey, please give me a chance to give me. And I felt that before. I've felt that. And you're right. But most of us get caught up on deciding on what we want to do for what we think is our purpose, or what we should do because everybody says is correct. And it's hard. It's hard because we live in a mainstream society where everybody agrees that, or the majority agrees that, you need to do things a certain way to be socially accepted. And if you don't, it's for XYZ reason, So that's awesome, man. So you mentioned that the name of your brand is Purpose. So you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So that comes from a book that I read called Conversations with God. And just like a little background, I've never, like, my parents always talked about God, or not that they always talked about it, but that was something at home. Like, we prayed and we talked to God. Yeah. But I was never like forced to go to church or follow a certain religion. So it was more like of a spiritual practice. Yeah. And when my best friend took his life, same thing. Like, I stopped playing soccer and I was like, who the hell am I? Like, I don't know. Kind of going through that depression. My dad gifted me this book called Conversation with God. One of the teachings I got from there, like, it's this dude writing as if he was writing to God. And he's like, is this good or is this bad? I'm going to butcher it, but just to get to the point. And the response is like, there's no good or bad. There's just your purpose and what serves your purpose and what doesn't serve your purpose. Oh. So, for example, I found myself when like I got into nutrition, a lot of people asking me like, oh, is this food good or bad? Well, like, stop looking as good or bad. There's your purpose. There's things that serve your purpose or don't serve your purpose. So, for example, if a certain food is gonna make you feel crappy, is that probably gonna help you in your purpose? Yeah. So it's not that it's bad, but that doesn't serve your purpose. So there's something better we can find. Same thing with movement. Like, is your goal to be like an active parent or stuff like that? Well, then it's not that this exercise is bad. It's that it doesn't serve your purpose. So let's focus on what does serve your purpose. And it comes back to like, we each have our purpose. Like whether it scares us to think about, because it's also challenging. Like, for example, I commend you, bro, like for you to start a brand new project from zero, stuff like that. I love that. I get inspired by that, and that's also, I like being around that type of person, because I'm trying to do the same thing, like start my business, and it's kind of scary, you're going into deep waters and you don't know if you're going to make it or not. But so I commend you, and yeah, bro, it's inspiring to see you do that, and for you to have me here on your platform. I'm really grateful. But yeah, that's the reason behind the name Purpose.
That's awesome, man. And first of all, I appreciate it. This, I know when I started, it was weird to me. I remember like I found myself listening to Joe Rogan so much, and as the conversations went on, that's why podcasting is so it's still strange to me. It's like we're having a conversation, right? And it's like, but some people will watch it and just listen to us talk, and it's like, and then I kind of think to myself, it's like the Joe Rogan podcast where he has like millions of views that listen to them have a conversation. It's like, so when I first started, I was like, I have two ways of thinking about this. I can do it, and I can think that this is stupid and not give it a shot, or I can think that I can do it and this is somehow pretty cool because people listen to podcasts, and I can give it a shot. And I chose to choose, obviously, to think the most positive way. I usually think more positively. And the first couple of episodes were weird, and I appreciate those who came on in the first episode when I was brand new and just wanted to have a conversation. But the more I do each episode, literally, it's like I find myself a bit better in each episode that I do. And I think that's with everything in life. It's like, just like you mentioned, you're starting a new business, and I'm sure it's terrifying in a sense that I know that you have a competitive mindset because of your background. And I know sometimes you probably try to convince yourself, like, should you do this? Like, should you not? Like, nobody's going to pay attention to you. Like, you're small. Like, why are they going to pay attention to you when there's already big brands out there doing the correct job? And it's like, you can't think that way. In anything that you do, you should usually chase the things that you're most scared of, right? I think that's where you learn more about yourself. I've taken massive risk in my life, like financially man, just thinking about it right now is like, I think back and I'm grateful for the mistakes that I've made, but goodness gracious, if I didn't make those mistakes, I'd be in a better position right now, but I also wouldn't know myself as well as I do now. So anything that you do, anything that somebody wants to do, explore something new, you have to, because that could be that your soul is begging you for an opportunity, right? And I think that if you keep suppressing those emotions and pushing that to the side for years to come, you're literally just building up a what's it called? A perfect storm for potential depression, man. But if there's anything that you do start, for example, you started a business, I've started a podcast. Once you do start something, I think the key to success, from people that I've spoken to, the books that I've read, and the podcast, the key to success has to be, at the bare minimum, consistency. If you're going to start something, especially like a business or anything, you have to be consistent in the things that you know serve your purpose, right? Like, you can either do things, like you said, do things that serve your purpose, or avoid the things that don't. And if you avoid the things that do serve your purpose, then obviously you're not being consistent. And I think for me, that's the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from people who are successful. Is like, you have to be consistent. What I boiled it down to, and I haven't heard this anywhere else, and I'm sure it's out there, but just kind of how it clicked for me was like, you have to be consistent with your discipline, and you have to be disciplined enough to be consistent. And it's like, I think if you're able to manage that, regardless of how long it takes, and you build one brick at a time, like, you'll be able, to get where it is that you're trying to go.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like consistency also comes from doing something you love. You know? So for example, with health, people get into it motivated, like, oh, New Year's resolutions, I'm motivated to do this. And the truth is, motivation is good to get you started, but it's finite. You can't run on motivation, So also, if I could give anything that I hope adds value to people, like, find a strong, meaningful why you're doing. Like, I had clients that, like, I would ask them, and this is an exercise I've done, like, was done to me, and I use it. It's like, okay, why do you want to lose that weight? No, it's because I want to look better. Why do you want to look better? Well, it's because my partner divorced me. And why is it important to look better? No, it's because honestly, like, I'm afraid that she's going to get another husband, and the husband's going to be with my kids. And I just want to be able to be there for my kids. Okay, so you want to get healthier because you want to be with your kids and stuff like that. So when motivation isn't there, that you're like, I don't want to go, that discipline
big time
is what's going to get you there. And for nutrition, for health, for business, for life in general. So that is a big thing. Consistency, discipline. Gary Vee says, like, there's no lazy people. There's just unmotivated. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Like, you're doing something that you don't like. And it's hard to stay motivated 100%. Or to stay disciplined when you're doing something you don't like. So yeah, bro, I think what you said was spot on.
I think so you're completely right. Motivation, I stopped counting on motivation just recently. I used to always look for motivation. Why don't I want to do this, or I need to do this, but why? I'm not motivated yet. I'm not motivated yet. A lot of people wait till they're motivated to do something, and that is incorrect. You should write down what it is that you know that you want. When you write that down, you should write down what it requires to do that thing. And you should every day, whether you feel motivated or not, you know what the right thing to do is. And you need to do it. And what's funny is, for example, this is my example. It doesn't take me a lot to do a podcast. I still get nervous. Like, when I talk to people that I don't know, like,
thank God, bro, because I'm nervous as well.
I still get nervous, and sometimes I find myself kind of be like, maybe next week. But then it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you either want to do a podcast or you don't. And if you do, that requires people to come on your show. And if it requires people to come on your show, then you need to have them come on your show. And what's funny is, I hardly feel motivated before a podcast, right? I hardly feel motivated, honest truth. But when I'm done with my podcast, man, like even during this podcast right now, and I know when I'm done, I'm going to be filled with, like, these emotions. I'm just like, man, that was one of the best conversations I ever had. Like, the things that me and you have exchanged so far, like, things that you've said, like, they have already hit me, and I feel accomplished. I feel motivated. Like, I know by the time that I'm done with this, I'm going to want to look for my next one. Now, did I feel like that before the podcast? No. So it's like, essentially, I know what needs to be done, and I'm just speaking about the podcast, right? Because, like you said, this can apply to health, fitness, people's daily jobs. I didn't feel motivated, but I knew what I had to do. And once I did the things that I had to do, then my motivation kicked in to maybe keep pushing me further. Now, I know already 100% from experience that motivation after this podcast is going to die. I know that. So I know that once it's gone and I don't feel like doing another podcast, I still need to do another podcast, right? So it's a cycle. And I think once people stop relying on motivation so much, or waiting for the right time to do something, for them to feel courageous enough to do something, it's like, once you stop waiting for that moment and you just jump and take a leap to wherever it is that you're trying to do, then motivation itself is going to come within that process, right? And I think that's huge for you to say that, because with social media and all these things, we see the finished product. Exactly.
We see, like, the final product. and we don't see all the insecurities that were behind it, all the nerves, all the sacrifices, all those things. So for you to say that and be like, yeah, I do this podcast and I still get nervous, stuff like that, I think it's so cool to be vulnerable. And I know it's helped me because like certain things that I was nervous about, like I heard someone be like, oh, I felt the same way, and they still acted on it, which ultimately is what bravery or courage is. It's not feeling something, it's like acting despite of what you're feeling. So I also, part of that is like I wanted to go on here or want to spread my message because I really do feel like me blowing up is going to be helping people. So I do feel like I'm going to blow up because I know I'm going to reach a lot of people and improve their life. So I want to talk about these things before it happens because I think it's crucial for people to see like this. Have you seen the Kanye documentary?
Not yet. I heard about it and I have made that my goal. I'm trying to watch it before the weekend's over.
Yeah. No, so I mean, you can agree or disagree with a lot of things Kanye says, but musically, I think he's a genius. And you see when he was a kid how people ignored him, how no one took him seriously, how people like just told him straight up no, and kept on. And really, that's all that's needed. Like obviously, a lot of factors go into play, fortune, luck, but you have to be disciplined enough to bring those things to you. Like, you know, you need to stay the course. And yes, during the course, you're going to feel nervous, you're going to feel insecure. But it goes back to the same thing. If you're doing what you love, it's easier to
100%
to withstand all that.
100%. And just like you mentioned, in regards to, you know, sometimes things like luck and fortune come into play, I think it's being consistent in everything that you do in your preparation as well. Because I think success, like a big time of success comes when preparation meets opportunity, right? It's like when you've been prepared for so long and it's that little, you know, stroke of luck or opportunity that comes at the right time. And sometimes opportunity comes to those who aren't prepared. And that's the worst kind because a real opportunity has presented itself to you, but you weren't disciplined enough to be ready, right? And so you miss out. You miss out on what essentially could have been everything that you were looking for. It's those who know what that they're supposed to do and they continue to do it. And even though that things might seem that people might be pushing them away or they seem like there is no solution, it's those people who continue to stay prepared. And when that opportunity comes, they're ready to take it. And it's without a doubt, you know, going to be theirs because they've been ready for so long. Like you mentioned, we see a lot of the finished products on social media because essentially it's very rare. There are some people, but it's very rare the people who share their real journey, the real journey from 0 to 100 and all the bumps in the road, insecurity, the doubts, the fears, the breakdowns that they have. You really don't see that. We're so conditioned, like in modern times, to basically see the success stories and the finished product. And essentially, whenever you do decide to go on a journey yourself and you go through those hard times, you hardly have anything to relate to, right? Because all you see on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even, you rarely see people who are being vulnerable and are telling the truth. So it's like when you come to those bumps in the road, it's like, okay, am I the only one that's going through this? And if I am the only one, then that means I must suck. And if I do suck, then maybe I should reconsider what I'm doing, right?
100%.
And I think that's a interesting approach to take as well. It's like, I wonder if there is something out there, or I think there is value in providing very transparent journeys from what you're going through, and potentially having a platform where people that are on their journey or in the process of doing something that can go to your page and just kind of see, oh, look, well, he's made mistakes, but he's doing well for himself. So maybe it's normal that I make mistakes too. And maybe it's normal for things not to be going well so soon. It's like, oh, if I keep pushing, maybe if I keep pushing like he kept pushing, I can end up being successful like he has. So yeah, man, all that's interesting. I definitely think, like you mentioned earlier, comparison is the thief of joy, 100%. If you pay too much mind on everybody else's success story and you keep comparing it to yourself over and over and over again, it's eventually you're going to convince yourself that you're not good enough. And I think that in itself is harmful. And I think that that's not good.
No, 100%.
So yeah, man, tell me a little bit more about you know what you got going on with the business. Like, what you got?
Yeah, so going on currently, I work with my one-on-one clients. I also create like nutrition and training program. So if you want to combine them both, that's obviously the most optimal. But if you just want a nutrition program, an exercise program, and that's cool for me because it gives me more opportunities to work with people that don't have the chance to see me one-on-one.
Yeah.
So like I have family in Canada that like I'm helping nutritionally, stuff like that, you know? So.
And do you do this like via app? Do you like online?
So I'm going to be
we're here.
Super transparent. I'm in the process of getting a new app from talking to like my mentors and stuff like that. So business-wise, I still feel like I'm in my infant steps.
Yeah.
But I know it's going to work itself out.
100%.
The message or the purpose is there. So I'm just embracing like where I'm at right now. But yeah, through calls, with
Making
technology, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got the adult class opening up in Laredo, Texas. So Monday we're going to start. I'm super excited about that. And we're doing a week for free, so people get a feel for it. So people we have nothing to hide. We want people to see, and I feel like I'm confident and I have faith once they feel our philosophy, they're gonna love it. My Instagram, which we were talking about. I'm recently just got back on, but that's where I use it to try to educate or share my message, and that's. Jorge Rocha, so JORGE ROCHA 1818. That's my Instagram. So for anyone that wants to follow me, any questions or anything that they might have regarding health, training, nutrition, sleep, I would love to be able to help. And
I've been doing it for the past couple of videos because believe it or not, I'm still learning like the whole editing process. But I'll have that right under you. On the video, pretty much the whole video. So if anybody sees, so we got to understand YouTube, I would love to transition over to Spotify because I realized that on YouTube, you have to have it on YouTube, even when you're messing like with other apps on your phone. You have to have it on YouTube. If your YouTube is closed out, then basically this video won't play. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just like with anything else on YouTube, but like on Spotify and things like that, you can leave it playing on the background while you messaging or whatever. Yeah. But regardless, on the video, I'll put your IG handle right under you, and we can get that going. So I think it's very important, like if you really want to communicate your message, to be active on your IG, on whatever social media you choose, because there's different platforms. If you are a one-man job, it's very difficult to keep up with social media for the creative side. And what I mean by that is like it is time-consuming to make videos, cut videos, IG, Facebook, messages, blah, blah, blah. It is tough, but do your best to do that because it will help. One thing that I've learned in having my own business and things like that and failing is people will come to your social media to see how professional you look or how credible you are. I'm going to be honest. Once you gave me your social media, I went on there. And I checked your most recent post. It was like a picture of a baby. And then you talked about like women's pregnancy and stuff. I read that whole thing. And it sounded very good. Thank you sound like you knew exactly what you were talking about. And as soon as I was done, I was like, I mentioned it, to my girlfriend. I was like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. I was like, I'm excited for this podcast. So it's very important. But I know that the reason that you mentioned that you got off what was the reason that you got off?
Tim Grover is responsible for me getting on social media. So Tim Grover, and my...
Thanks, Tim. God, man.
My best friends, Eddie and Aldo. But I had first read, like, he trained Michael Jordan, he trained Kobe Bryant. So a high-performing coach. Sure. And he talks about, like, how he doesn't post any reels. Because you see that on social media, like, working out and this and that. So he doesn't post anything unless his clients ask him. And it's because he was saying, like, the videos is not where I get them results. It's like in the trenches. It's doing the work. So for me, thanks to my social media, like I had attracted clients, but I kind of like got stuck. So I was like, you know what? I feel like in my part of the journey, I'm at a point where I owe it to the people that put their faith in me to like, and not that social media was taking away, but I guess it was just my mindset to like give them 100% of me.
110.
Yeah, I don't want to focus on social media right now. I don't want to focus on posting. I want to get away because it's good for all that, and I appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Especially from people that are using it and doing it. But it's also for me at times like a distraction.
No, trust me, I agree. A lot of us get So it's like I have to remind myself, and I do a bad job sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of people do too. Is like I have to remind myself, okay, if you're gonna go on social media as a creator. Mm-hmm. Don't go as a consumer. Because like once you go on social media as a consumer, you're scrolling for hours. Yeah. And that's where the distraction kicks in. Mm-hmm. I've been able to do it in periods of time, and I keep trying to get back there. It's like where I used to go on social media, but just to post. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even look at anything else. Like I have, friends and stuff. I wouldn't even scroll. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going on social media because I'm going to post a reel. I'm going to post a video, blah, blah, blah. And then I would get out, right? Mm-hmm. So, no, but I completely understand. It is a distraction if you let it be a distraction, if you spend way too much time on it. And especially any time is valuable when you're trying to run a business, when you have clients. So it's like you really have to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck when you have clients to attend to, for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, like I've also been working on refining my message, and like since the beginning, I knew what I wanted to say, but I was all over the place, and maybe I still am, and it's okay. But things like this help me refine my message. So again, I really appreciate it. But I was like, you know what? Let me focus on applying my message. And right now I'm at the point where I do want to go back to sharing my message. Yeah. Now it's more refined. I do want to promote some things that I'm doing because ultimately I feel like it's going to bring value to people. So yeah, I'm back on Instagram, back on Facebook. Hopefully I'm going to try not to use the distracting part of it and just post on it and add value to people. But that means a lot. Thank you for like reading that and the feedback, because ultimately like those posts, and I don't really care, but I get 3-4 likes. Mm-hmm. So that makes me think like, are people not seeing or stuff like that? But my main goal is like one person, at least one person that it gets and it adds value. I'm happy, bro.
Yeah, that, and I'll give you something else. Do not focus on the likes or none of that. I do not focus on that, because that's not why you're doing this. Mm-hmm. You're doing that because you're sharing, regardless of what. If literally, even if there were people 0 likes on your post for 1 year, you need to post. Sorry, I don't want to say need, but you should post regardless. Mm-hmm. That was one of my biggest fears when I started the podcast. Like, I mean, I'm still at maybe an average like 100 views a video, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to compare myself, right? So I stopped looking at that. Like, I appreciate every single person who even takes 5 minutes to listen to a whole podcast or parts of it. Like, for me, I'm more than grateful for anything, but I can't be stuck on whether or not, because I have 700 friends on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I have 1,000 friends on Facebook, but 100 views on YouTube. Yeah. So what does that mean? Some of the people that you have on social media aren't listening or whatever, and that's completely fine. Like for me, I don't mind. Mm-hmm. But I had to get there, because I used to be like, oh, well, this video only got like 20 views. Like, what am I doing here? Yeah. Don't. The messages that you're spreading, especially if it's a correct message, need to be spread. Eventually, just like you mentioned, whenever you do blow up, people will scroll down and they will go back to where you started, and they will see the messages from the beginning. Yeah. And that's where everything starts to compound, mm-hmm. right? So you have to keep doing the correct habits and the correct actions that will compound over time, for sure. Yeah.
And it's easy to fall into that trap. Like I'm not even that big, or like my most likes will be 100, and that's me like.
Hey, that's more than me.
But that's me posting like a sleeveless picture, and I get 100 likes. Yeah. And I post something about pregnancy and the health of a child, and I get 4 likes. So I get why people like fall into like posting the butt pics or stuff like that. But ultimately, it comes back to like, I know what my message is, and I'm not doing it for the likes, and not even doing it for the money to a certain degree. Obviously, like I want to provide for my family, provide things. Yeah. But just the feeling and the energy I get from working with clients, from having this conversation, like it makes it all worth it.
For sure. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if you've already had people, or I won't be surprised if you will have people who read all of your posts. Now, some of your posts don't even like it, but they come to you as a client. Mm-hmm. That would not surprise me at all, because I'm pretty sure there's been situations, or will be situations, where I'll have this podcast, I'll have episodes up, and someone will reach out to me like asking to do a podcast, but they've never watched any of the videos. Yeah. And I don't mind that at all. That's just how it goes. Yeah. And you can't take anything personal. Mm-hmm. And actually, not here, but one of the things that I learned from the book, The 4 Agreements, was
Don Miguel Ruiz.
No? Actually, you might be right. I'm not sure. It's over there. I can't remember the author, but one of the 4 agreements to yourself is basically don't take anything personal. I think once you really, really realize that, it's like you really let go. You let go of that attachment to wanting the likes and, oh, did my friend like it? I know my friend saw it, but why he didn't like it? It's like, let that go. Like it's nothing personal. Like you mentioned, everybody's going through their own thing. People handle their own life differently. It doesn't mean, or it doesn't make anything less of you. Don't take anything personal. You'll start being a little bit more free in the things that you do. So
yeah, and I want to promote, like, be a fan of yourself, validate 100%. Yourself. Like, you don't need to, which is something I'm working on and struggling with. And thank you, Kanye West, for sure. Not to that degree, but yeah, like we seek validation from other people or want to be appreciated by other people, and to a certain degree, it's a human behavior. Yeah. It's human nature. But you can, like, promote yourself. You can validate yourself. You can be your own fan. So that's also something I'm working on.
Yeah. One thing that I learned, because I went to Austin for about a year, and I consider them my mentors now, man, because they shifted the way my mindset and my attitude, and they shifted in such a positive way through repetition and example that they probably don't even know. I had a good friend of mine, Darren Rios, his parents. They're from I think Nicaragua. Yeah.
Oh, Speedy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I keep forgetting that. Yeah. His parents, man, they're just so impressive, and they've helped me shift my mind in such a positive way. And one of the things that they used to tell me as well, because I used to like have a part-time nutrition shop there. And it's like they would see that, because they come in and check on us and or help me, they would see something that'd be kind of quiet right now. And they're like, do you want to be successful? And I was like, yeah. I was like, well, how do you expect people to be excited about you if you're not even excited about yourself, right? It's like, how do you expect people to see you the way you want to be seen if you're not acting that way? And I'm like, damn. Like they would. So I started so people that would come in, man, I would just have like a sunny attitude, like, hey, how you doing, right? Like this and that. You talk with confidence. You want to be an expert in the things that you're saying. You want to seem that way, and you are that way. And that way, when people listen to you, they hear your tone, they hear your excitement, your passion. That is what people is drawn to. Yeah. People will come to you when you speak that way 100% of the time, as opposed to whenever you kind of sound like, well, yeah. People who seem unsure do not attract people who are passionate and excited about the things that they know they're talking about. Yeah. That was like for me, and it made the difference, because I started being that way, and people were speaking to me differently. People were interested in the things that I was saying, and I just saw more engagement, and it was just like literally black and white, day and night for me. It was like, that was impressive.
Yeah. So no, I'm learning that the hard way, and I'm like kind of in the beginning stage of realizing that, like, how I'm talking right now is not what I was saying a year ago with the same conviction or stuff like that. But it also comes from, and to each their own, comes from experience, from mistakes, from like all those things combined. It, at least for me, gave me the confidence to be able to sit down and be like, hey, if you want to achieve this, this is the best way to do it. Yes, you can do this. And just refine my message. And I know I'm not done with that. Like, I still got a long way to go, but I'm excited about it, bro. Like, just thinking about that, like how much I can improve, how much I can learn, like all these things. It's really exciting.
Yeah, man. That's also something that's been very exciting for me too. Is they're the reason that I got into reading books as well. They're like, you want to learn more, you want to be better, so read books. Do you know a philosopher? I mean, he's passed away for a while now, but a philosopher named Jim Rohn.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so Speedy's parents actually had a one-on-one dinner with Jim Rohn, right? So they had, obviously Jim Rohn doesn't speak Spanish, and Speedy's parents at that time didn't speak English. So they were assigned a translator between them and Jim Rohn at dinner, right? So they had a one-on-one session where you could ask them whatever they wanted and everything. And one of the many things that they took away from Jim Rohn was reading. It's like, if you want to know or have a better chance of being successful, it's like, why would you not read about successful people? Why would you not want to listen to what successful people have to say, and their mindset and things like that? And yeah, that's why I started getting into books. And for me, it's always been exciting to find the next thing that I didn't know, find the next thing that can help me be better. And that's kind of my journey as well too. So
that's awesome. And that's awesome that you had people like that in your life.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to be the best version of myself. So someday, the way you're speaking about speeding his parents, someone's like, thanks to, like in small part, thanks to like him and stuff like that. And just pass it down, pass it down. And hopefully future generations don't mess up like we do, things like that. But yeah, I also think mentors and I've invested a lot and seek out a lot of mentors, and that's also provided me with confidence, because you're literally seeking out someone that has 10, 15, 20 years of experience more than you do, and you're getting all, instead of like, experience is crucial. Like you have to live certain things, but if you can kind of fast track that, it's going to help me better serve other people. So yeah, mentors are a huge key. It's so cool getting to connect and talk about all these things.
I think mentorship, when you find people that already made the mistakes that you would make if you didn't connect with them, will 100% fast track you to wherever it is that you want to go. You have two choices. You can you can find the person that's living the life you want, go and figure out the mistakes to avoid, or you can stay within your own bubble and make the same exact mistakes that they've made and wait the exact amount of time to get to where you want to be as they did. Or you can cut a 20-year journey into potentially 5, right? And I think, and I'm going to say this again, I said it in the last podcast, but Pete Salazar, he came on the podcast and, we're talking about mentorship, and he talked about, whenever you want to get to a place, that you want to go, is like there's 3 levels of mentorship. It's someone that you look up to, your mentor. It's someone who's essentially walking the same journey as you, which is someone that you train with, right? Or that you can bounce ideas off of. And then there's somebody that you want to teach, right? And the way he structured it that way was absolutely just like mind blowing to me, because I realized that I didn't have that. I didn't have someone that I reach out to who already has that experience. And I do have people that I have these conversations with and bounce ideas back and forth with. And essentially I do have people who I coach, right? And I can mentor as well. So, and I've always wondered, is like, how do these people find a good structure to kind of get to where they're going, to have a good balance of learning, working in the process, and also teaching. And that's what he said, and it made a lot of sense to me. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but yeah, man. So anything else?
No, really, really freaking grateful for you to have me here.
Yeah.
And my hat's off to you. Like, it takes courage, like we said, to start something from the ground up. And I think what you're doing and giving people a platform to share their message, to share their story, I have so much respect for that. And if you go to Spotify, make sure you get your 100 mil, like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Just make sure of that.
Yeah.
No, but in honesty, like, I feel like when you do things like that, obviously you want to get compensated and stuff like that, but I don't even think that is success, just the energy, like that was transaction here, like things like that. I think that's what
100%
makes life worth living.
Worth it, yeah, for sure. And that's kind of essentially like what I try to, I don't say chase, but whenever I do get those moments, it's all worth it, regardless of the additional likes or listens and whatnot. It's like the emotions that like of this conversation for me are essentially priceless, right? And that's what kind of keeps me going, and that's what I appreciate the most from the conversation. So Jorge, thank you so much for coming out, man. I know that you're from Laredo, it's 2.5 hours. I know you got family here, but still, being able to speak to you and get your perspective and health and things like that has been very valuable and essentially priceless. You're very knowledgeable in what you're doing, and I think you're on the right path. I think you're in a spot where you are just really good. Sounds like you got a good support system around you, and I think that it's just a matter of time. Everybody's time is different, and you never know. Yours can be way quicker than what you expect. I would rather think that way than to think that yours is way slower than you expect. I think it's going to come a lot quicker, because there is nothing more there's nothing more dangerous than a person who has a clear vision. And you've made that very obvious that you have that. And I think, like I said, it's just a matter of time until you get to where you're trying to go, man.
I really appreciate that, brother. It means a lot to me. Thank you. And I'm going to be eternally grateful for you. I'm going to look back and be like, Adrian gave me my first chance at a podcast and being able to say my message. And it was a bucket list of mine.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about, like, I watched Joe Rogan, like so many podcasts, you know, and I was like, damn, it's so cool. I want to be on a podcast.
For sure, man. And in the future, man, like anytime you want to come out and I'm trying to get to a point where I can travel with my equipment and then meet people like in a neutral place or even at their place. But anytime, you know, you have something new or you want to just come and have an episode, you're more than welcome to come. It's just a matter of me being like, okay, hey, this time I'm free. Let's do it, you know? But yeah, guys, I think that's it for the episode, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to episode 15 of the A7E podcast. Remember, this is your host, Jiggadrin. Please, guys, remember to like it. Please subscribe. It helps me out more than you think. And share this with somebody who, you know, might be interested in the conversation. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation yourself. And I'm so grateful for everybody that takes a listen. This is episode 15. I think we're on our way. I'm very motivated right now, and I'm very excited and looking forward to the next one, guys. So
can I say something before?
Yeah, hey, man. I'm so sorry. Keep going. Yeah.
You guys share, support the Kim Kardashians, all these celebrities. Help your homeboy out. Like, you know, we're trying to do our best. This comes from the heart. We're trying to provide value to you guys. So even if it's just a like, even if you just watch 5 minutes, even if you just share, just help us out. We promise we're doing this to provide something of value. So help us out, please.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Until next time. See you guys later. Peace.